Thank you, Helen. So, does Heathrow need a new third runway? This is what two of the airline industry's biggest figures told us earlier today.
A third runway would bring significant economic benefit. And I think this debate is about balancing the economic benefit of aviation against the environmental impact of aviation.
I think air travel is absolutely key to the global economy, and the UK is a trading nation. Globalisation is key to the UK as well, and the fact is we're not performing at the moment with Heathrow the way it is. Now, the government have laid down the gauntlet and said very clearly that this expansion has to be done in the most appropriate way, and that we've got some very big hurdles to meet if we're going to put the third runway in and make sure that it complies with all the environmental challenges that we face.
Now, not everyone shares that view. Let's get both sides of the argument here on Sky News. Michelle De Leo is the Director of Flying Matters. It represents a coalition of the aviation industry, business, trade unions and tourism. She joins us from our central London studio, and here with me in the studio in Austerley is Katie Gent from Haycan Clear Skies, a group that's opposed to any further expansion at Heathrow Airport. Morning to both of you. Michelle, I thought we were all supposed to be flying less to help save the planet.
Well, I think that there are two key issues which are central to this debate that we need to be honest about. The UN panel on climate change predicts that contribution to climate change from aviation will grow to 3% by 2050, which is a small, but it's a growing percentage, and we obviously have to take that seriously. And that prediction doesn't even take into account the billions of pounds being spent every year by the industry to reduce its carbon footprint. And the second issue is that there's a direct result in terms of constraining capacity, which is actually what happens when you physically constrain capacity, is that it's a crude method of demand management. And what happens is that pushes prices up. And what happens is it's not the wealthiest who fly most who will be priced out of flying first. It will be ordinary working families who fly only occasionally. And they're exactly the sort of people that I think most people would find it unacceptable to see priced out of flying.
Now, Katie, fair's fair. Isn't the aviation industry bending over backwards to try to make itself more environmentally friendly?
If they are, we haven't seen any results yet.
Aren't planes less polluting these days than they used to be?
Just a bit. We've got to a stage in aviation, aeroplane design, where, in fact, you can only get very small improvements. And sometimes people say, well, either you can get the planes to pollute less, or you can get them to make less noise. You can't actually make many significant gains from now on. We've got sort of stuck on that.
Go on, Michelle.
Well, the industry already has a track record going back since the first jet engines of reducing its carbon emissions by 70% and reducing noise by about 40% from the first jet engines. And the industry is committed to targets to meet by 2020, which will further reduce its impact, certainly in terms of improving fuel efficiency by 50% by 2020. And it's well on target to meet that. And actually what we will see is a sort of step change at particular moments. For instance, around 2012, BA will be introducing its new Dreamliner fleet, which is at least 20% more fuel efficient and certainly quieter by almost a similar percentage. So
well, let's pick up on that point, shall we? Where do you live, Michelle?
I live in South London.
Anywhere near the flight path?
Certainly, we get overflown, yes, we do.
So you're looking forward to another 900 flights a day?
Well, I think, as I say, I mean, what you need to take into account is a balanced perspective, which addresses, we need economically sustainable as well as environmentally sustainable solutions, so that we take into account what the industry is doing year on year to improve its performance, and that also it will be part of the European emissions trading by 2011. And the new runway at Heathrow won't at its earliest be online until at least 2015. So we've got to take a balanced view on this. And as I say, I mean, the first people, if we constrain capacity, the first people who will be priced out of flying will be ordinary working families who fly maybe once a year and less than that. And I think that most people would think that that was an unacceptable outcome.
Well, it's also a ridiculously emotional card to play. But Katie Gent, I mean, do you care about the economy as well as the planet?
Yes, I do care about the economy. And I am aware that more British people fly abroad as tourists than come in from abroad spending money here. I'm also aware that there are some industries which have come specially to Great Britain because of the good and cheap airfares, but more have actually set up abroad because they too can take advantage. But most of their money, the wealth that is being created in both leisure and business, is actually going out of this country, not in.
Michelle, you're looking perplexed there.
Well, actually, I mean, the tourism deficit, which Kate is talking about, actually gets worse if you constrain airport capacity. The UK has targets to increase the number of international visitors. Aviation is growing phenomenally around the world, and what will happen is those people won't stop flying, so you won't get, an environmental benefit. What will happen is that they will fly elsewhere and they will spend their money elsewhere. India, for instance, is the second largest investor in London, which is absolutely critical, not just to London, but to the UK economy. And that relies on affordable air links. And I think that, we have to be honest about what the actual outcome is if we constrain capacity. And what will happen is we'll have economic pain for very little environmental gain, because the UK's contribution to that 3%, which I mentioned at the beginning, of global carbon emissions from aviation is less than 1%.
Michelle and Katie, I know it's a heated debate and it's going to go on for some time, but grateful to both of you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.